that when they handed him the crown, Caesar said,
"No, baby,"
and turned the crown down. But who does he say?
You know, I don't want to take away your fun. Studying can be fun.
Hey, come on, Cockroach.
See, I told you, done this at my house.
Carl Payne from The Cosby Show finally revealed the dark truth about what really happened behind the scenes. For decades, the cast stayed silent about their experiences working with America's most beloved TV dad.
Why would you? I never said I wouldn't cut my hair. I never said I would do anything different. I didn't do anything. Your makeup and hair people did this. I didn't do this.
Did you tell them that?
I didn't get a chance to.
Carl tried to explain what really happened, but no one wanted to listen.
You see how that can get twisted and turned into, especially when it's not the end result is not good. It's like, oh. And then you got people for years like, who I think I am not cutting my hair. If Cosby says cut your hair.
When the truth about Bill Cosby finally came out, Carl understood why his gut had been screaming danger and why no one did anything.
I was really giving Bill the benefit of the doubt. This was not the man that I knew. This is not the man that I worked with. He may have had other faults, but he certainly was not people and.
This is how Carl Payne discovered what really happened to the Cosby Show cast. Carl Anthony Payne II was born on May 24, 1969, in South Carolina, but his family moved to Harlem, New York, when he was very young. Growing up in one of the most culturally rich but economically challenging neighborhoods in America, Carl found his escape through entertainment and performance. The streets of Harlem were filled with music, comedy, and artistic expression that would shape his approach to acting and comedy for the rest of his life. As a child, Carl was drawn to the performing arts in ways that set him apart from other kids in his neighborhood. While many of his peers were focused on sports or getting involved in street life, Carl was studying acting at the First All Children's Theater, an off-Broadway repertory theater company that specialized in developing young talent. This early exposure to professional theater gave him skills and discipline that most child actors never received, and it prepared him for the intense world of television production. Carl's talent was evident from an early age, and he was accepted into one of the most prestigious performing arts schools in the country, Fiorello H. LaGuardia High School of Music and Art and Performing Arts in New York City. This was the same school that had produced countless Broadway and television stars, and Carl understood that being there meant he had real potential to make it in the entertainment industry. He threw himself into his studies, learning not just acting but also the business side of entertainment. While attending LaGuardia, Carl began auditioning for television roles, hoping to break into the industry while still in high school. The audition process in New York was brutal and competitive, with hundreds of young actors trying out for every available role. Carl learned quickly that talent alone wasn't enough. He needed to develop a thick skin and the ability to handle rejection, because he would face it constantly as he pursued his dreams.
Now, Rudy, I thought you told me I was your boyfriend.
You're too old.
Cockroach, this is amazing. You get turned down by women of all ages.
In 1985, when Carl was just 16 years old, he got word about auditions for a new Bill Cosby television show that was looking for young actors to play supporting roles. The Cosby Show had already become a cultural phenomenon in its first season, and landing any role on the show would be a career-making opportunity for a young actor. Carl prepared extensively for the audition, knowing that this could be his big break. What Carl didn't know at the time was that he would be competing directly with another young actor named Malcolm Jamal Warner for what would become the most important role on the show. The audition process was intense and involved multiple callbacks, with producers flying in actors from different cities to find the perfect fit for their characters. Carl was flown in from New York as one of the finalists, and he was confident that his theater training and natural charisma would help him stand out from the competition.
What's up, Cockroach?
Yo, Cockroach.
Look at me. What do you see?
I see Theo.
Look again. What you see is your best friend. Here.
What are these?
Nothing but 2 tickets to Dance Mania.
The television show?
The role they were all auditioning for was Theo Huxtable, the teenage son of the Huxtable family and the only male child on the show. This character would have significant screen time and storylines, making it one of the most coveted roles for young black actors in the mid-1980s. Carl felt he had done extremely well in his auditions and was sitting right next to Malcolm Jamal Warner when the casting decision was announced. The disappointment he felt when Warner was chosen would create a rivalry that would affect their working relationship for years to come. After losing the role of Theo Huxtable to Malcolm Jamal Warner, Carl Payne could have given up and returned to New York to continue his theater work. However, Bill Cosby saw something special in the young actor and didn't want to let him go completely. Cosby approached Carl with an offer to play a recurring character named Walter Bradley, who would be Theo's best friend on the show. The character would have a unique nickname that would make him memorable to audiences and give Carl a chance to showcase his comedic timing. The nickname Cockroach came from an unusual source that revealed how Bill Cosby developed characters for his show. Cosby explained to Carl that the character was inspired by a real friend of his son, Ennis Cosby, who had a similarly unique nickname. Cosby wanted to flip the negative connotations that people typically associated with cockroaches and turn them into something positive and memorable. He told Carl that cockroaches were survivors, creatures that could endure almost anything and still come out on top. Carl wasn't initially thrilled about being called Cockroach, but he understood that Cosby was trying to create something that would stick in viewers' minds. The character would represent loyalty, humor, and the kind of friendship that could withstand any challenge. Carl threw himself into developing Cockroach's personality, making him lovable despite his quirks, and creating chemistry with Malcolm Jamal Warner's Theo character that audiences would find endearing.
What are your parents saying about this?
Well, I haven't asked them yet. We stopped here first. But a yes from you could carry a lot of weight with them.
However, behind the scenes, the relationship between Carl and Malcolm Jamal was far from the friendship their characters portrayed on screen. Malcolm Jamal later revealed that he felt Carl held resentment about losing the Theo role, and that this tension affected their interactions during filming. Malcolm Jamal described Carl as having a huge ego and said that if anyone should be walking around with attitude, it should be him since he had landed the starring role. The competitive atmosphere extended beyond just Carl and Malcolm Jamal to other aspects of the production. Cast members would try to psych each other out before auditions, and there was constant pressure to prove themselves worthy of being part of such a successful show. Carl found himself having to navigate not just the challenges of playing a character, but also the politics of being a young actor in a high-stakes television environment. Despite the tensions, Carl's performances as Cockroach were well received by audiences and critics. He appeared in a dozen episodes spanning from Season 2 to Season 4, and his character became an integral part of the show's appeal to younger viewers. Carl's theater training helped him bring depth to what could have been a simple comic relief character, and he managed to make Cockroach both funny and sympathetic.
Cockroach, this is our chance to become immortal.
True, and after we do this, we can walk up to any girl on the street and say, "Excuse me, hi. Do you know who we are? We're the guys from Dance Mania."
The success of his character on The Cosby Show opened up new opportunities for Carl, and he began to see himself as a legitimate television actor rather than just a theater performer. However, the environment on the show was becoming increasingly complicated as Bill Cosby's control over production intensified, and his expectations for how cast members should look and behave became more rigid. Carl was about to learn that success on The Cosby Show came with a price that could destroy careers just as quickly as it created them. The incident that would end Carl Payne's time on The Cosby Show began with what seemed like a simple production requirement. The show was filming an episode called Bald and Beautiful in Season 3, which required several male cast members, including Carl, to appear with bald heads for comedic effect. The episode's plot involved characters shaving their heads, and the production team needed to create the illusion that the actors had actually gone through with the haircuts. Instead of requiring the actors to actually shave their heads, the production's hair and makeup team decided to use hot combs to straighten Carl's hair and make it lie flat under a bald cap.
What happened was, the episode where we had to shave our heads, their hair person, right, hot combed my hair to make it lay down under the ball cap.
This was a common technique in television production, and Carl trusted the professionals to know what they were doing. He had no reason to believe that this routine procedure would cause any permanent damage to his hair or create problems with his continued involvement in the show. However, the hot combing process went wrong in ways that the hair team didn't immediately address. The chemicals and heat used to straighten Carl's hair were too harsh, and they essentially stripped and damaged his natural hair texture. When it came time to wash out the straightening treatment and return Carl's hair to its natural state for future episodes, the damage had already been done. His hair had been chemically altered in a way that couldn't be easily reversed. Carl showed up to the next filming session with hair that looked different from his usual appearance as Cockroach. The change was noticeable enough that it caught Bill Cosby's attention immediately. Instead of addressing the situation calmly or working with Carl to find a solution, Cosby confronted him in what Carl later described as an ambush that made him feel attacked and humiliated in front of other cast and crew members.
I thought I told you, about your hair, this, that, and the, not like he told me about my hair before, but like the rules. Like, we only do natural hair around here.
According to Carl's recollection of the incident, Cosby approached him aggressively and began talking about hair policies that Carl had never heard before. Cosby claimed that there were rules about only having natural hair on the set, but this was the first time Carl had been made aware of such requirements. The irony was that Carl's hair problems were caused by the production team's own hair and makeup procedures, not by any choice Carl had made about his appearance. Carl felt that Cosby was talking to him like he was a grown man rather than a teenager, using language and a tone that was inappropriate for addressing a young performer. The way Cosby confronted him felt like a personal attack rather than a professional discussion about resolving a hair and makeup issue. Carl was never given a chance to explain what had actually happened during the filming of the previous episode, or to work with the production team to fix the problem.
I never said I wouldn't cut my hair. I never said I would do anything different. I didn't do anything. Your makeup and hair people did this. I didn't do this.
Did you tell him that?
I didn't get a chance to.
The confrontation left Carl feeling ambushed and defensive, and he realized that his time on The Cosby Show was effectively over. Cosby had made it clear that Carl's appearance was no longer acceptable for the character of Cockroach, and there was no interest in finding solutions or accommodations. Carl was essentially fired from the show over a hair issue that had been created by the show's own production team, a situation that seemed unfair and arbitrary to everyone who understood what had actually happened. While Carl Payne was dealing with his sudden departure from The Cosby Show, the public image of Bill Cosby remained pristine throughout the 1980s and 1990s. Cosby was seen as America's dad, a moral authority who preached about family values, education, and personal responsibility. His public persona was built on wholesomeness and respect, making him one of the most trusted figures in American entertainment. Behind this carefully crafted image, however, was a man whose private behavior was dramatically different from his public face. The first cracks in Cosby's reputation began to appear in the early 2000s, but even then, most people dismissed the allegations as unsubstantiated attacks on a beloved figure. Andrea Constant, a former employee of Temple University's women's basketball team, filed a civil lawsuit against Cosby in 2005, alleging that he had assaulted her at his home in 2004.
Said, Mom, Mr. Cosby me and
violated me.
The case was settled out of court, and most of the public remained unaware of the serious nature of the allegations. During the civil proceedings, Cosby was forced to give a deposition under oath about his relationships with women. In this testimony, which wouldn't become public for another decade, Cosby admitted to obtaining prescription quaaludes with the intent of giving them to women he wanted to have sex with. He acknowledged that he had engaged in what he called casual sex involving the recreational use of sedative, though he claimed it was consensual. This deposition would later become crucial evidence in understanding the scope of his predatory behavior. The allegations against Cosby remained largely hidden from public view until 2014, when comedian Hannibal Buress performed a stand-up routine that directly referenced the allegations. Buress called Cosby a during his performance, and a video of the routine went viral on social media. This moment marked the beginning of Cosby's downfall, as it gave other victims the courage to come forward with their own stories of Over the following months and years, more than 60 women came forward with allegations against Cosby spanning several decades. The stories were remarkably similar. Cosby would present himself as a mentor figure, offer career opportunities or advice, invite women to private meetings, their drinks, and then sex them while they were incapacitated. The pattern of behavior suggested a calculated who used his fame and reputation to access and vulnerable women.
Cosby individually each of the women from 1979 to 1992 in Las Vegas, Reno, and Lake Tahoe. Cosby has now been accused of and harassment by more than 60 women.
Many of the accusers described feeling powerless to report the assault because of Cosby's status in the entertainment industry. His reputation as a family man and moral leader made it difficult for anyone to believe that he could be capable of such crimes. The women who tried to speak out earlier were often dismissed or threatened, and some found their careers damaged as a result of attempting to expose his behavior. The entertainment industry's failure to address the allegations against Cosby revealed systemic problems with how powerful figures were protected at the expense of their victims. Cast members, crew members, and industry executives who may have witnessed inappropriate behavior or heard rumors chose to remain silent rather than challenge one of the most successful entertainers of his generation. This culture of silence allowed Cosby to continue his behavior for decades while maintaining his public image as America's beloved father figure. The legal reckoning for Bill Cosby began in earnest in December 2015, when prosecutors in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, filed criminal charges against him for the of Andrea Constand. This was a significant development because it represented the first time that criminal charges had been filed against Cosby despite decades of allegations. The decision to prosecute came just before the statute of limitations would have expired, and it was based largely on evidence from Cosby's own deposition testimony. Cosby's first trial in June 2017 ended in a mistrial when the jury was unable to reach a unanimous verdict. However, prosecutors were determined to try the case again, and the retrial in April 2018 resulted in Cosby being found guilty on 3 felony counts of aggravated indecent. The conviction was seen as a landmark moment in the hashtag #MeToo movement and a vindication for the dozens of women who had come forward with allegations against the entertainer. On September 25, 2018, Cosby was sentenced to 3 to 10 years in state prison. He was also designated as a sexually violent, which meant he would be subject to lifetime registration requirements and counseling. The 81-year-old man, who had once been one of the most beloved figures in American entertainment, was led away in handcuffs to begin serving his sentence in a Pennsylvania state prison.
Bill Cosby, once one of the country's most beloved and successful entertainers, has just been sentenced moments ago in a Pennsylvania courtroom, this following his April conviction in a case.
The conviction sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry and forced many people to reconsider their relationships with Cosby and The Cosby Show. Networks quickly pulled the show from syndication, removing it from television schedules where it had been a staple for decades. The show that had been groundbreaking for its positive portrayal of an African-American family was now tainted by the criminal actions of its creator and star. For Carl Payne and other former cast members, Cosby's conviction represented a complex mix of emotions. Many of them had worked with Cosby during their formative years and had benefited from the exposure that The Cosby Show provided for their careers. At the same time, they had experienced firsthand Cosby's controlling and sometimes abusive behavior behind the scenes, which took on new meaning in light of his criminal conviction. Carl's experience of being fired over his hair, which had seemed arbitrary and unfair at the time, was now viewed through the lens of Cosby's need to control every aspect of his environment. The way Cosby had ambushed and humiliated Carl in front of other cast and crew members was consistent with the pattern of behavior described by his victims, using his power and status to intimidate and control those around him.
It was the word, it was what he was saying, how he was saying it, the way he was coming at me, the language he was using, how he came at me. I was like, I felt ambushed.
In June 2021, Cosby's conviction was overturned by the Pennsylvania Supreme Court on procedural grounds, and he was released from prison after serving nearly 3 years. However, the court's decision was based on a technicality related to prosecutorial agreements, not on Cosby's innocence. The overwhelming evidence of his guilt remained intact, and most of his accusers continued to maintain that justice had not been fully served. The legacy of The Cosby Show remains complicated, as it represented important progress in television representation while being created by a man whose private behavior contradicted everything the show claimed to represent. For Carl Payne and other cast members, their experiences on the show became part of a larger conversation about power and accountability in the entertainment industry. Anyway, that's it for this video, folks. Bye.